Greetings, students. So we have been studying about reproduction so far, reproduction in all kinds of organisms. And last time we had discussed about the various phases that organism has in life. For example, just after birth, before they reach the reproductive maturity, we call it as juvenile phase. Then we call it as the reproductive phase, and the last phase where they are aging will be called as senescence. And in reproductive phase, we have again seen that there are three events. There is pre-fertilization event, the fertilization, and post-fertilization. In pre-fertilization event, the gametogenesis, that is formation of gametes, and gamete transfer took place. Today we will be learning about the fertilization, what exactly it means, and what happens after fertilization, that is post-fertilization events. And with this, we will be completing the chapter reproduction in organisms. Okay, so I'll share my screen with you all. Okay, so when it comes to fertilization, it basically means fusion of the two gametes. And whenever fusion word comes up, last year in morphology of living plants, flowering plants, we had seen that the word syn is used. Syn means fused, and gamete over here means the gametes. Okay, so syngamy can be used for syngamy is another term for fertilization. And after syngamy takes place, the resultant cell which you have is called as a zygote. Okay, now in some of the organisms like your honeybees, and also in case of some lizards and birds, some rotifers, your Google rotifers, how they look like. So these organisms, they in their case, the female gamete does not fuse with the male gamete. The female gamete itself will form a new individual. So when there is no fertilization, or when there is no syngamy taking place and the individual is being produced, so in that situation we will call it as parthenogenesis. Okay, now in honeybees, I'll give you all an example what happens in honeybees. Okay, so in case of honeybees, the female has diploid, that is 32 chromosomes with her, whereas the male is haploid in their case, wherein only 16 chromosomes will be present. Okay. Okay, now it's perfect. Now what happens is the female is going to undergo mitosis, the meiosis, and she is going to produce two gametes which have 16 chromosome and 16 chromosome each. Okay, now this two gamete, you have got it from these 32. So you have 116 chromosome over here. Like they, after meiosis, they got converted into haploid cells, and one set of 16 chromosome over here. Okay, then what happens next is your male is going to carry out mitosis. This I'm speaking in terms of honeybees. Okay, and in mitosis, the number of chromosome remains the same of that of parent and the offspring. So here again 16. Now what will happen is the fusion of these two will take place. This 16 chromosome from the female and these 16 chromosome from the male are going to fuse, and you are going to get a cell which has a resultant of 32 chromosomes over here. Okay, a 32 chromosome means it is going to be turn out to be a female honeybee. Okay, whereas this one out here will remain as it is. This one will remain as it is, the 16 chromosome. Okay, and this 16 chromosome means it is the male. Okay, so that way this one did not fertilize, like syngamy does not take place over here. So this kind of reproduction will be called as parthenogenesis. Okay, so that is what will happen in case of your uh, honeybees, and also in turkey and in rotifers. Okay, next up, after that, we need to understand how many types of fertilization are there. So there are two fertilization, external and internal. Now, we have discussed this already last year, but I'll again refresh your memory. So in external fertilization, the male and female gamete are going to fuse outside the female's body. Whereas in internal fertilization, male and female gamete will fuse inside the female's reproductive tract. Okay, now external fertilization requires some kind of a medium, and mostly aquatic organisms do that. The lower animals, the lower plants, even algae and some kind of fungi, what aquatic fungi, they are going to showcase this kind of external fertilization. And now what happens is, in water, when so many gametes are released, they are going to fuse as per their own species itself. There is something called as fertilizing and anti-fertilizing reaction. These are two chemicals which are present on the gametes, and these are species specific. So a gamete of a human being cannot fuse with a gamete of a chimpanzee. Okay, because the even if you keep them in a closer proximity, they are not going to fuse, because the fertilizing and anti-fertilizing reaction is not going to take place very well. We are going to speak about fertilizing and anti-fertilizing reaction in the third chapter. But so far, just remember this thing, that there are some chemicals on the gametes which allow the fusion. Okay, so a gamete of a particular species will fuse with the gamete of that own species only, no other species. So just in order to increase their chances, the male gamete as well as the female gamete, the number of them in external fertilization will be quite more. They'll be secreting a lot of male and female gametes. Whereas in internal fertilization, since the male gamete is going to come to the female gamete in the female reproductive tract. That is why female gamete are produced lesser in number, because it is for sure that they are going to fuse. And the male gametes here are the ones which are motile. In case of external, both of them were motile. In case of internal, the female gamete is not motile, whereas the male gamete is motile. Now motile matlab wo log move kar sakte hain. Okay, so the male gamete is motile and it is going to fuse with the zygote, and not the zygote, sorry, the ovum, and they are going to form one single cell which is called as zygote. Okay, so syngamy takes place and zygotes are formed like that. In case of plants, that is your angiosperm specifically, the male gamete over there is not motile. It will be carried to your ovary by something called as pollen tubes. Okay, so in plants, there the male gamete, even though they are carrying out internal fertilization, the male gamete is not motile over there. Okay, now let's discuss about the post fertilization events. That is the things that are going to take place later on after the syngamy has taken place. So uske baad kya banega? Ek single cell which will be called as zygote. Okay, now all the sexually reproducing organisms that are there, be it in external medium or in internal medium, they are now going to showcase two things. One is cell division and then cell differentiation. So this cell division and cell differentiation comes under embryogenesis. Okay, so we remember this कि एक single zygote जो रहता है, this is the link between the organism of one generation to organism of the next, because this contains the information, the genetic information from both the parents, and they are going to fuse together and form a new unique organism. That is why sexually reproducing organisms are not exactly the same. You look like your father, you look like your mother, but you are not exactly same as your father and mother. You're one in a million. Okay, बहुत अनोखे हो आप, बहुत खास हो आप. Okay, so everybody out here is unique because of the combination of two different types of chromosomes that took place. Okay, even amongst the siblings, even amongst the brothers and sisters, there is not much of similarity. There will be variation, and that is all thanks to the different types of chromosomes that come in and fuse in fertilization. Okay, so that is your zygote. Now zygote ka kya hoga? The cells are going to first of all divide. So एक का दो, दो का चार, चार का आठ, आठ का सोलह, सोलह का 32. Okay, 32 cell mass as soon as you get, we call it as embryo. Now this embryo is going to carry out cell differentiation. मतलब उसके कुछ cells allocate हो जाएंगे to form the brain and the spinal cord, कुछ cells allocate हो जाएंगे to form the heart and the cardiac system. Some cells will get allocated to form the your excretory system. तो ऐसे कुछ कुछ cells को कुछ कुछ काम दिया जाएगा कि भाई तुम लोग ये organ बन जाओ. Okay, so same thing happens with other multicellular organisms like fungi. And also with plants, the same thing is going to happen. Some cells will develop into your roots, and some cells will develop into stem, and so on. Okay, so this is called as cell differentiation. Now when it comes to animals, animals are further categorized as oviparous and viviparous organisms, and also some of the organisms are ovoviviparous as well. Okay, so now in oviparous and viviparous organism, what happens is, let's discuss about oviparous first. The fertilized egg, or also the egg can be unfertilized in case of a turkey. Okay, so the fertilized or the unfertilized embryo will be protected in a hard calcareous shell. Okay, calcareous shell matlab calcium ka bana hua shell, and they will be placed in an environment which is considered to be safe for their development. So once they develop, the young ones are going to break open the calcareous shell and then come out of it. So they are going to hatch and come out of it. This process is called as hatching. Okay, and then they are going to develop on their own. Now from species to species, from class to class, the organisms differ. In case of reptilia, parental care is not seen, whereas in case of birds, parental care is seen. The parents will care for the young ones even after they hatch. Reptilia में वो अंडे देके छोड़ के पेरेंट्स भाग जाते हैं, उनको पता नहीं रहता कि उनका बच्चा कौन है और बच्चे को पता नहीं रहता कि पेरेंट कौन है. Okay, the younger ones that have hatched, they will live their own independent life. Okay, so that is about your this thing. And in case of viviparous, the parent is directly going to, the female parent is going to directly give birth to the young one, and the young one will be dependent on the mother for nourishment. In case of mammals, they will be having mammary glands. Most of the mammals are your viviparous. And there is one exception to mammal, which is oviparous. So I want you all to find that out, which mammal is oviparous, and do let me know. And also, yes, so many of the organisms are, many of the animals are viviparous only, and they are going to give rise to your young one directly. In that case, the young one will be dependent on the parent forever. Okay, now in case of plants, what happens is the zygote is formed in the ovule. The male gamete is going to fuse with the female gamete, which is present inside the ovule. The ovule then develops into a seed, and the remaining parts of the embryo that you had, which will it will develop into a fruit. Okay, so all those parts which are being shown as S over here, they are the ovules, and they are going to develop into seed, whereas the remaining part will develop into a fruit. Okay, now the fruit also has a thick outer covering. So this thick wall that you have on the outer side of the fruit, which we had again studied last year, is called as pericarp. Okay, so that will lead to the formation of the pericarp. So these are the post fertilization changes that will take place in different kinds of organisms. Okay, so that is it. With this, we finish the chapter. So next time I'll be coming up with human reproduction, and in between this, you have one more chapter called as reproduction in flowering plants, which will be taught to you by BSL sir. Okay, so see you all next time, people. Goodbye. Do subscribe to Right Academy, like this channel, and like this video as well. Okay.